is it? You can hear them, can't you? What are they, honey? Yeah, the old cat doesn't understand. She was freaking out. Well, I'm used to it. It hasn't happened in quite a while. It's been at least, I don't know, 3 years or something since anything like this has happened. But something was knocking stuff around in the kitchen. Of course, there's no way in there. There's no way past the cameras, and all the doors are locked from the inside. All the windows they're barred shut. There's nothing in here. I'm locked in the bedroom from the inside as well, but of course something is knocking stuff around just off the camera. Of course, it was pretty loud too. It happened several times. The first time I figured, well, maybe the garbage was settling, but after the third time, so I figured I'd record the cat's reaction. She really freaked out the first time. Of course, it's not like I'm sitting around ready to film stuff like that. But anyway, interesting. I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but I've heard of a lot of stories. Most of that stuff is usually phony. You get some fishing string or whatever, and you can do things. But I've seen it legitimately manifest that way before. Not very often. Probably, I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10 times in my life. I've seen some pretty weird things. One of my ex-girlfriend's dogs started barking at the ceiling one time after her kid freaked out, ran in the room with a clarinet while we were kissing, laying down, and just smashed her on the back of the head. Literally a sneak attack. And we're talking about a 2-year-old kid, man, who just busted through the door that was locked, broke the damn door, busted through the door, and smashed her on the head with a clarinet. And the clarinet was up in the closet. We don't know how she got it. And it was really weird because the kid wouldn't sleep for like 5 days straight. And she was acting bizarre. This was a long, long time ago. And this chick was messing around with stuff. She had a bunch of tarot cards, and there were a lot of things going on. I came home right before that, and she didn't think I was coming back. I got off work early, and she was holding a seance with about 15 or 20 people right there in the living room. And she knew that I didn't agree with that stuff. She was hiding it up to that point. I didn't know about any of it. And when I confronted her, she came clean and told me about all the stuff. And she had the tarot cards and stuff like that. And she was very defensive. Don't say that about them. They know. They have names, she said. Well, we got into a bit of an argument. And some pretty strange stuff happened. I was paralyzed and basically held down to the bed that night. There was, of course, a big fight, and she was laying out on the sofa. But I couldn't move. It lasted for about 2 hours. I thought I was going to die. I cried out to God to help me. And, well, needless to say, the next day I left, never went back. And she was acting pretty weird the next day, too. But people are going to run into that. I talk about the spiritual stuff all the time. And, you can't be cheesy. You can't assume everything, has to do with gangstalking, that everything is a demon, right? But when something happens and it's undeniable, well, it's different. You have to have a strict criteria for both. And if you guys have watched the channel, you know that I believe that at the root, gangstalking, harassment, everything, every single thing that you're going to deal with, all the way from politics to gangstalking, everything is affected by the spiritual realm. Your gangstalking experience might not have anything to do with that kind of stuff. There's probably people out there that don't know anything about, weird stuff like that. They haven't had the weird street theater. They haven't dealt with the occult. They look at this as solely something that the government is doing. Maybe they are being attacked by energy weapons. Maybe they have been followed. People have infiltrated their job, their workplace, and caused problems. And they would see something like this, and think it was ridiculous. But I would just say this: if that's what you're dealing with, be thankful at this point, because it can turn, it can change. And you see a lot of explanations out there. I've seen comments, and if I didn't know any better, I would think the same thing too. You have different types of theories that have to do with frequencies, and I think one guy was talking about servos and stuff like that. I know. Well, what are you gonna do? I mean, if you don't understand, the spiritual realm, then it's got to be something, right? People talk about the hive mind and telepathy and stuff like that, and I've given my explanations before. I don't believe that a conscious type of connection between all these people is necessarily needed at all. And you would think that if you've been attacked in that way, right? You would think that somehow all these people are connected. But I don't think it's necessary. A lot of people talk about control centers and different types of things, operatives that are in different cities and stuff that are deployed as soon as the target enters the geographical location or whatever. I mean, there's probably stuff going on. But I don't think it's necessary. And from the stuff that I've experienced, I don't think that was, really a good explanation for the things I've experienced. I've heard stories from people that talk about, getting that kind of street theater. It just seems like it's coming from everywhere. People driving by them while they're walking down, a busy street or whatever, and saying things. I had one guy that I talked to for a while, where he would, he would get hit in convenience stores, at his workplace, while he was walking down the street, and it was all very similar. And he was a new targeted individual, and they would say things and yell at him, and it just depends on the theme. And there are a lot of them, like I've talked about before. Targeted individuals are sent messages. Suggestions are very powerful when it's combined with this type of stimuli, right? Because how do you figure this stuff out, especially new targeted individuals? Right? I mean, I'm probably wrong about some of this stuff. I'm not saying I know everything. In fact, I got a comment from someone who I've never personally said anything negative to, which is kind of interesting when you get those comments from people. I mean, it's one thing to disagree with someone, but when you get something personal and ad hominem attack, well, it's like easy with the venom, We had enough of that at the Oscars, but I was, accused of being a gang-stalking know-it-all, and I could kind of see how people would probably think that, but I guess I don't know. Maybe I should have disclosed a little bit more about my story. I think I've been clear that a lot of the things that I talk about, it's not like I just knew it the whole time. Through my experience with group harassment or gang stalking or whatever the hell you want to call this. In fact, for the first 15 years, most of the stuff that I'm talking to you guys about, I had to learn the hard way. I didn't figure it out. The Truman effect, people reading your mind and all this other stuff, the clairvoyant type of street theater. I didn't I didn't know what the hell was going on. In fact, I kind of got to the point where I just didn't care, and and I've mentioned this too, that if a targeted individual goes long enough, if they last, for decades, they're going to start figuring stuff out just by trial and error, right? And I think, especially with the stuff like the mind reading and everything, it seems like it's real. It seems like there's no other explanation, and even with the technological type of hypothesis. But what you'll find out over time is that it's got to be suggestions coming into your mind, then you react, right? And, once you get over being paranoid about different things, like we'll say you have a trigger for something and that gets thrown at you, maybe, from the spiritual dimension into your mind, or maybe even, through someone with street theater. And whereas before you might have got paranoid and got that type of, mental hiccup and started thinking about something, it just bounces off you. And, at first they would, say things or whatever, and you would be getting paranoid or nervous, and it's like a mental Tourette syndrome. Don't think of, oh, what if you thought of something, bad or whatever. It's like sitting in church and getting spiritually attacked. And, I've heard a lot of people talk about, how could you think of such a thing and call yourself a Christian, But of course, it's not really you. And if you don't react to it, then that whole process gets short-circuited, and you don't have the paranoia. You're not dwelling on it. You just move on from it. And the street theater that you get is wrong at that point, right? Because you're not thinking about anything, or you're thinking about something that has something to do with something completely different from what the stuff that's coming at you is implying. And that's how I figured it out. I was like, wow, that has nothing to do with anything that I'm thinking about. Normally, I might have been worried about this, that, or the other, but I wasn't even paying attention. Or, I was thinking about something else completely, and you start to catch the inconsistencies. It takes a lot of time, because usually people are pretty predictable when it comes to that kind of an attack. And, people are set up. It's done very carefully, and people are kind of predictable that way. So, but that's the truth about me. A lot of this stuff I had to learn the hard way. In fact, it took me a long time to catch on. I was sensitized to a lot of things, and I was reading into just about everything, and even the directed conversations and stuff like that. I mean, I got to the point where I had a hard time even being around people, because I just couldn't stop paying attention to what people were talking. I was constantly listening. And, like the comment that I made about that guy, walking down the street and people yelling at him, it was the same thing. They were saying, oh, he's looking for it. He's looking for it. And, I was too. And when you are, it's just, boy, you can sure, you see one, you see a million. And then everything, like a lot of the new targeted individual videos out there, and like I said, I used to be guilty of that, are people processing things incorrectly, and you get self-centered because everything that's, involved in your gangstalking experience is personalized to you. People are attacking you, strangers, all that stuff, conversations, and it even gets into your ego. And your ego is connected, with just about every part of you, right? Every part and facet of your identity, your ego is in there. So, it's a pretty good method, and you start paying attention to all that stuff. So yeah, I've made all the mistakes, guys. So if I come across like I'm telling you, don't be so stupid, and boy, you should have figured that out, just know that I didn't. I had to I had to learn the hard way, man. Totally. There's a lot of motives, and a lot of things that these people and these beings are trying to accomplish. But if nothing else, even if it doesn't work, Even if you're not sensitized in the way that they want you to be, if nothing else, you're still going to be thinking about this stuff, right? It's kind of inevitable that the targeted individual starts to anticipate things. And, once they jerk your chain, it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned veteran, you're still going to react. It's still going to bother you. You're still going to wonder what's going to happen next. That type of anticipation is, it's a killer. I think I mentioned it in one of my videos. Somebody broke into my vehicle when I was at the post office and put a branch right across the steering wheel. It was about a foot long, just broken off a tree. Noticed it right away when I opened the door to my vehicle. And, a lot of people might just look at it, oh, big deal, But that's not the only thing that people have to deal with. And the implication, of course, is, you can't loosen up. You can't relax. You have to be, anticipating this stuff. You have to watch your back constantly because you never know what's going to happen, right? And targeted individuals are given that message. It doesn't have to be sophisticated all the time, right? It doesn't have to involve a lot of science. It just has to let you know what's going on. Some people get those types of break-ins into their house and things are rearranged or whatever. Maybe a pen is sat out. Targeted Mike made a video. He's on the Office of Targeting. Sorry if I got that wrong. I think it was something hanging from a tree, Charlie Brown mug or something. Of course, everybody knows the insinuation there, right? And it's, you can't tell anybody. It's not like you call the cops, and I've talked about that in videos before. I mean, just imagine if I would have called the police and said, somebody broke into my vehicle. What'd they do? They put a stick across my steering wheel. Really? What do you do for a living? Oh, you're a simple, delivery driver. You're a nobody, in other words. Okay. Well, why? And then, of course, you get the line of questioning that it goes nowhere. You don't have the answers, and that's part of the strategy that targeted individuals deal with. You just end up looking like a nut, some paranoid freak, and there's other things that go along with it, and you just get to the point where you're isolated and everything. And I've been doing this a long time. I've been getting all kinds of different attacks, and my health is pretty bad. It takes me hours just to get to the point where I can literally walk out the door. That's how bad my legs are. I had to buy a little shopping cart. There's a guy that he always runs around the downtown area, and he's a what they call a scrapper. He's unemployed, but he collects things, and usually he runs around with a little shopping cart from a grocery store, one of the ones. He commandeers them, I guess is the best way to put it. And wire, brass, tin cans, whatever, aluminum cans, anything he can get his hands on that he can take down to the scrapyard. And he had a couple extra ones laying out there, and I had used them at the grocery store for a while. I would kind of like limp out of the house and go to the grocery store so I can kind of lean over the shopping cart just to kind of walk without putting my weight on it. It usually takes about a half an hour of doing that before I can actually straighten out my left leg, because it's just so damaged from arthritis and everything. And it's just, just watching me walk around, I look like Quasimodo. I can combine it with everything else. And then, if you don't have the smoking gun evidence, a guy like me or, the people that are listening to this, even if you look normal, even if you don't have anything weird going on, you're just going to look nuts. It just doesn't work. And targeted individuals are accused by people in their social circle or even their family of being crazy. And, the ironic part is, with all the technology and stuff, I think some of these people are inevitably going to get caught. So if you're out there and you're wearing those, sunglasses that are recording everything, or a body cam or whatever, keep going. Keep doing it. I think eventually, with all the stuff out there, even though I criticize videos, somebody is going to get something that it's going to produce some fruit. And, the irony is, these people are going to look bad. And they're accusing you of being crazy. A lot of times it's people in your family, like I said, or that are close to you that are doing this stuff. And now, not only are they going to be guilty of, gaslighting you and trying to drive you crazy and harassing you and, abusing you, but they were doing it to someone who is disabled. That's really going to look bad. I've had a lot of people comment to me, gee, you think these people will be satisfied? They're still coming after you. I mean, it looks pretty pathetic. A guy who could barely walk. I'm not rich at all. My only real friend is that cat most of the time, and she's a good friend. But I mean, I don't know. For me, it's just more evidence that this stuff is spiritual, and I've talked about that before. That if you're a new targeted individual and you just assume that these people are coming in to get their pound of flesh and they're going to go away eventually, it just doesn't work that way. This stuff is not reasonable at all. It doesn't follow any logic. And, even if it's people that you consider close to you, a close friend, maybe a spouse or a family member, none of that stuff is off limits. In fact, that's going to be used. And I'm not saying that anyone in your family is, involved. You're going to have to make that. You're going to have to make that observation. But it's used that way because the people that are closer to you can wound you a lot more than someone that you don't have a close relationship with. And the spirit realm is going to use that. They want to manipulate you. They want to get that depression, that frustration, that paranoia stirred up in your life. And, the worst part about dealing with people close to you is it always involves gaslighting. The spirit world uses that very well. And they can manipulate the hearts of people. They can control them. And a lot of people would look at it as just, narcissist type activity or whatever. But it's more than that, in my opinion. You can look at it however you want. A lot of times people are diagnosed with mental pathologies, Munchausen by proxy or whatever, But I think it's just evil. I think it's demonic. And like I said, these people are going to look really bad because most of, the people in your close circle, if you're, the usual targeted individual, have been instrumental in getting you on paper as being disabled. So the fact that they're attacking you is not going to work out for them. But this stuff is unreasonable. If you even suspect that you're being targeted, you need to take precautions. This stuff goes, way beyond anything that you would suspect. And a lot of times people believe that it stops. And, this whole thing is just nothing but a big menagerie of gaslighting. And sometimes for targeted individuals, it does. I mean, it depends. Well, it doesn't stop. It changes. And if they can indoctrinate someone, depending on, what kind of a scenario they're in, if they can get them to form a false proposition, there are people who get gaslighted into believing that gangstalking is meant for their good, that these people are trying to help them, or other people will, get to the point where they believe that God is not real. And gangstalking was a symptom of their psychosis of believing in Christ, and they just went crazy trying to grasp the reality of hell and the spirit realm. I mean, they will get people to believe that. And they will let the targeted individual spread that false proposition like a disease. And, the other thing about being a targeted individual is a lot of times it's hard to tell what's really going on. Okay, I've had things happen to me that, they could be directed energy weapons. It could be something spiritual. I don't know. You might get that bell tone, very sudden and intense tinnitus, accompanied by a lot of different sensations that might have to do with your skull or your body. It might be accompanied by pain, or some type of V2K, or your hearing might be altered, like muffled almost. You might experience that electromagnetic type of sensation. There are a lot of things that can happen, and you don't know. You don't know, especially with things like V2K. I haven't experienced anything like that for years, but I've had it happen. And it's creepy when it all comes together like that, and you just don't know what you're dealing with. So I don't criticize people that believe in one thing or the other. I mean, I know how confusing it is to deal with these types of attacks. And when it comes to the gaslighting and everything, I always just try to keep things simple. Rather than to figure all this stuff out, the first thing that I remember is God's in control. Okay, and the second thing that pops into my head now is that just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Right? A lot of times targeted individuals are sent the message that they're playing this little game. We're going to get you, or whatever. And, especially with the street theater and all that, that can get instilled in the mind of the target. And I've talked about that. I think I called the video Loser. I suppose I could make that video again. That's one of the videos that I erased after a heavy attack. But anyway, I erased quite a few videos when I did that. The whole idea of you being in a game is ridiculous. This is completely unfair. And throwing that paradigm in the mix is going to get people really frustrated because, of course, in a game, there's always a winner and a loser, and you're outnumbered. There's no way you can control this situation that you're in. And that sense of injustice is going to build up. That's what they want. And it's an inevitability that's going to frustrate you. But don't give in to that. You just do what you're supposed to do. Follow all the protocol. Know that God's in control. And, if you can't win, you can't lose. That's kind of the way I look at it, man. If it takes all these people doing all these things to me over so many years to get me and coerce me or whatever, I've kind of already won, and they already lost, in my opinion. And that's another thing that you need to remember if you're getting frustrated or you're looking at this scenario and wondering why people are getting. They're not getting away with it. They're losing. They just don't know it yet. They're going to get there. There's no rush. Everybody's going to get where they're going. And when that happens, everything's going to be on the table. And it's going to be a pretty pathetic, sorry situation. It's sad that it has to come to that. And hopefully people will turn around out there. Hopefully there'll be people that repent. But don't buy into that. Don't buy into that paradigm. And follow protocol. If there's things going on that you can't figure out or you don't know what to do, just do what you're supposed to do. Ask God for help. If you can't win, you can't lose, man. If it takes all this to bring you down, don't worry about it. I'm going to end the night with another little video clip. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe. Yeah, something's out there, huh? Yeah, you do. What is it? What are they? You're starting to breathe kind of heavy, honey. Yeah, you don't know about them, do you? Uh-uh.
I do, though.